Morning. The 8 laws. I've had some very good validation. This young Maori guy I work with, he's less than half my age. He is eating up this 8 laws thing, right? Like, seriously, man. And it's because it's the truth of the matter, eh? It's the truth of the matter. If you've seen the video, the 8 laws, theory of relativity 2.0, it stacks up 100% sound. It is straight, man. It's got the straight edge as, man. And the young guy, he's astonished, eh? He's fucking astonished, and he's freaking out that he feels really good, man, and everything's much easier to like go with, man, and he's wrapped, eh? He feels like amazing, he says, eh? And I says to him, well, actually what you're feeling is being relaxed, which shows that he has never been relaxed, because he was raised in a way where, you know, and I'm meaning from the first sounds and the first hours and first days, and that becomes the child's world view, and nothing challenges that because of the 8 laws and how humans are configured by it. Okay, the human intellect is configured by it, and so that's a great thing. That is pure, you know what, there's the universe. You know, that's a potent thing, man, because it just makes things happen. It makes the things that it wants to happen, happen. It gets involved with people that it can hear listening. And I have been listening a long time, man. A very long time, since, like, you know, for myself, right, when I was like 4 years old, I had a series of dreams about reality, and they were like pretty blatant nightmares to me, man. But now I realise it was just actually these obvious things of the world. It was a very stylistic representation of quite salient aspects of reality here, and so yeah, I was going to make a video today about consciousness, because it should be said on the back of my other videos, right? Okay, so we'll talk about consciousness today. For me, what is consciousness, right? Well, consciousness is, I can very easily liken it to the situation with electricity, where you have an electrical field, right? That is its physical state. That's how it represents itself to the physical realm that we have, right? Because in the realm that it's actually from, nothing physical exists. It does not exist in a physical way. It is something different to that. Now, so it's, yeah, this is the new thing, you know, this is, what is this, you know, what is this? But today we that's a bit hard to qualify, because how do you measure nothing? Because in the physical sense, you can't, yeah, it's intangible, because words are physical things. Words represent, you know, thoughts, but the way the thoughts exist, this is still not fit for purpose to discuss consciousness, because there's too much physicality, figuratively speaking, to language. because you're saying words, you're thinking words, and consciousness doesn't exist like that. Okay, and so there's a great difficulty there to translate into this realm something that honourably and successfully enlightens people, the human being, to accurately represents what is there. Because I haven't been to that realm, but I'm pretty sure that our system of communication, language, it's not fit for purpose to. There's no way you could have an honest representation of that reality, right? You can't. Nah. So, but we have got a very, very powerful experience with the behaviour of consciousness, right? As good as the 8 laws revelation is to identify and to perceive anxiety as its true self, right? Where you can figuratively hold it in your hand and examine it because it is a political entity, not fucking some imaginary fucking boogeyman. Yeah, it makes it easier to talk about consciousness because as good as it is, as the 8 laws is to identify aspects of anxiety and how it functions, its functionality, and how it replicates itself, this is a great insight into the character and composition of our consciousness, because the consciousness is the vehicle anxiety uses. So we can gauge a lot more of consciousness because of the character of anxiety, right? As the 8 laws has identified, we can see the composition and character of consciousness, its personality, right? And that's a great asset, I believe, to the world. There has not been, people did previously not have this level of understanding of it. It's like really going from mid-1800s medical technology to having an MRI machine, right? It really is. It's really, and an analogy I like to use is it's like with an encrypted file you need a decryption key, right? So given the nature of anxiety and how it has its 8 laws, and there's all the combinations of, and we only get to use 10% of our brain because that's the allowable maximum considering the first 2 laws, right? The decryption key that is the 8 laws revelation, actually it completely frees up the ability to communicate. And this thing's quite, you're talking about the composition of a consciousness, man. It's like once you become aware of the 8 laws and anxiety and how it actually functions, and we can actually say these words about reality, once you're aware of all that, then anxiety ceases to exist, actually. Because it's got no value at all in the consciousness realm. And if you think with consciousness, if you get bonded to consciousness, you have no value of anxiety. And so while it's like, this is the indication I'll mention, while you value it, anxiety seems to be the biggest deal in the fucking world, right? And if you don't value it, well, it doesn't mean anything. And this is just like, this is as mental as the rest of it, where actually everybody already knows all about the 8 laws, except no one's even, it doesn't exist, right? so so there you got an inverted inversion of the inversion, and that's like, this is the nature of consciousness. Actually, this is the nature of consciousness. We are supreme beings, man. We are elevated. We are hugely amazing. The human being, man. It's like, because I think consciousness grew us. It grew us because it wanted to know. It wanted to actually. It wanted to put. It wanted to. It wanted to know what stress felt like, or something, to be able to improve itself. And that's fair comment. I mean, we can see what happens to kids that are grown up in cotton wool, and we can see what these lefties are like in the Trump election. They are they are suffering a profound weakness of character. To, you know, they've got some issues, man. The lefties, eh? And just quietly, I would say that it's actually, it validates state laws really wonderfully, because what I would say about modern lefty and how they've been behaving over in the US about Trump, this is actually like Bolshevism 100 years ago, okay? Dreaming up imaginary problems, selling them to everybody, having economic and social coercion tactics employed on them for a number of years, being, you know, using a detailed threat matrix against the university system to capitulate to the character of the people, the character that the people that are doing this to society wanted. They wanted to change the character of the population, right? And Trump's just fucking knocked that on their head, man. It's like, and being the hostile people the left are, and seeing how the middle class of the world are all the same. Thus, you know, Trump has empowered them to stand up. And so you've got this argument at the moment that the middle class of the world, who create all the wealth of the West, actually, see, they don't value anxiety, so they just think these people are retarded. And I am one of those dudes, man. I think they're really intellectually handicapped, man. And they are intellectually handicapped. Because the middle class, the working class, we have the experience where we believe in consciousness, and anxiety is a fucking terrible pain in the fucking ass. But the lefties, they love anxiety, and so it's that same thing. And so the middle class will ultimately immediately forget this shit, right? Because it's complete bullshit, and the middle class actually have a hell of a good time just working. We've got our house, shared car, blah blah, family. This is the height of civilized life, really. It's not getting rich at all. It's a great thing to have money, of course. It's wonderful. But this is the height of civilized life. And but the left has an anxiety issue, and it wants it to be ruling society, right? And it's just fucking stupid. And so back to consciousness, man. Why do you like seeing your friends? What is it about that feels good? What is love? See, love's the ultimate pick-me-up, eh? It's a big pick-me-up, man. Why is that? Okay, well, I know why that is, because I know what consciousness it is, right? And I think when you get near your friends, it feels good, because consciousness, right? 1 + 1 = 3, and so you get this big increase. And that feels good to consciousness. Consciousness loves that, man. Everything we do is about that. You know, we listen to our favourite music and we do our favourite things, you know, and it's all about increasing the quality of our consciousness, which can be represented as a size thing, increasing the field strength. And so love is just a better form of that. And that's why they call it making love, you know, because 1 + 1 = 3, and that's where you get pregnant, which is not what I'm actually meaning. And so it is like a battery, a charged battery. A flat battery will need a charged up source to get charged up from, right? And consciousness is the same thing. And this is why you have feelings, I think, right? It's your charge meter for what's going on at the time. And that's why aggressive, narcissistic anxiety worshippers, they like making people around them unhappy, because then they have a lower charge than them, and then they feel stronger because they've lowered the rate. You know, they've lowered the experience of the people around them, right? And they're dangerous people just because of that. That's what they do. You know, and I know there's many kids out there, right, that grow up and they can be really enjoying school or have some great fucking thing they've done, you know. But the anxiety suffering parent, right, will immediately make them really unhappy because of that. Because it would seem then, because the anxiety sufferer thinks that they'll look bad if the kid's making them look bad. Okay? Because actually we all register reality from that interaction, the consciousness interaction and the battery thing, and that's really, you know what, I can't imagine that none of you all have seen that. You all know all about that. You know, shapes and curves and that, man. It's like, and you see, it's hard to talk about consciousness by mentioning a singular thing, you know, which is what the problem with language is. The language does not support multi-faceted equations very well. And this is why one-dimensional, you know, and this is because the human race has existed with the 8 laws of anxiety for a long time, right? I can imagine that the Celtic world pre-religion had an awareness where the 8 laws may not have existed, gauging by other important aspects of their belief systems. But definitely since religion has existed, the 8 laws has existed, because as the 8 laws points out, religion is just a big fat anxiety engine, right? That's, it's exclusively derived from the senior elements of the political correctness of anxiety. And so it's hard to talk about consciousness with the language we have. So my young friend there, he had all these questions, but he didn't know what to say about them and all that, and that is true. Because the 8 laws exist, there is no real language, there's no real way to define the problem, actually. And it's very difficult to talk about the kind of existence we have, because the 8 laws means that the language just does not exist. And so this is something that I will overcome. I'm going to attend to that, because my relationship with consciousness for such a long time, I know that there's different things that can be done about different things, and I've surprised people hugely, I believe, by my ability to solve problems, because I am prepared to entertain new concepts, okay? And that is what being loyal to consciousness means. The anxiety suffering thing, which is generally, it's largely the general society believes in the political correctness of anxiety. And they do that because of their relationships, and there's a lot of fear out there, man. There's a lot of respect of fear. And so I don't have any fear, so I don't need to respect it. And that's why other people weird me out. And you can't, it's hard to talk to them when you're a consciousness, when you're loyal to consciousness. It's hard to talk to these people. So really, as I may have said, this whole revelation came about from a linguistic study I was doing because of these anomalies and how we behave. And it was largely really down to how we communicate. And really, thought is communication, right? And so it's difficult to qualify consciousness, and that's why it was important to bring forth a means to be aware, which is what is needed, really. That's the significant thing. You use language to become aware of things. You can get told about things, and you can use language to conceptualize things in your mind. And this is only to be aware of something, right? So the important thing is to be aware that the 8 Laws revelation qualifies anxiety. Now, because anxiety uses consciousness as a vehicle, I think that the dynamism of anxiety is a good insight into the character and composition of consciousness, because consciousness is anxiety's vehicle, okay, that we all have, right? And that's something that should be heavily focused on. If this all is news to you, which is a fucking hilarious fucking thing, I mean, this revelation, this awareness, if this is news to you, that's what should be focused on really heavily, right? These few things, man, it's like the dynamices of the 8 Laws and the dynamices of anxiety, and how it is the ultimate and corrupt practice, man. It's completely the most genius fucking science fiction fucking thing ever. And I'm making this great revelation, yeah, but actually everyone already knows all about it, and it's fucking hilarious that no one's ever fucking figured this out. I have figured this out. This is amazing, right? And anxiety is the behavior because of the corruption that we get from the culture shock experience of birth, right? But that behavior is only down to the dynamism of consciousness, and the character and composition of consciousness, the disposition of consciousness, the personality of consciousness, and and then it comes around again, and it's that we have personalities and feelings because I think consciousness grew us. Okay, consciousness grew life, right? So consciousness is the originator of the universe, right? And it has grown life because under these circumstances we have on Earth, right? We have gravity, we have moderate heat, we have hot and cold, night and day, we have moisture, we have water, and we have medium, the medium of soil, right? And so through all these things, and we also have radio waves and magnetic fields. The Earth there's a big magnetic field thing going on here, and as you know, these planetary bodies have, and so life is an expression of consciousness. And you may wonder, how can I say this? Well, actually, they are the only things that are reality. Okay. If you want to talk about fucking millions of years ago, whatever the fuck they talk about, there's consciousness, and then there's this physical medium. Okay, gravity, magnetic fields, moderate and fluctuating heat, soil, air, water, moisture, and warmth. And so this was the format. This was the original format. This is the medium in the physical realm. And I say that consciousness grew us, and the DNA data isn't in a cell. I think the cell is an aerial that consciousness uses to grow us, and and this is why they think that the cell contains the DNA, and I don't think that's the case. I think that that cell is an aerial for the Bluetooth existence of consciousness, and so it uses Bluetooth to download what the cell is going to become, right? And so you know that you'll register consciousness. You'll get really walking on eggshells, like when an upset person comes along, okay, because you fear that your consciousness rate's going to get lowered a whole lot, right? If they talk to you, you're immediately going to go, and you're going to have to, and if you're in fear of that person, you're going to have to give them your consciousness, right? And so, and you fear that a whole lot. And everyone learns that as children, right? Everyone experiences that and learns that as kids. And so that's the truth of you and me and everyone else. Except for now I'm not, because I'm aware. I don't get affected by those people. Okay? And that's the big lesson. Being aware empowers you to make a choice. While not being aware, you don't have any choice because of the pre-existing formatting that we get when we're little kids. It's the most genius thing that I've ever fucking seen, man. And I've seen some stuff, man, I tell you, but this is fucking amazing. And, so yeah, anyway. Hope you can watch to this point. I'd be impressed. That'd be really nice. And if we make a big effort and we all get together, we tell everyone we can. I've told people. I told this girl. I've told 2 chicks this week, right? And both of them immediately recognised what I had to say about the first 2 laws. And I got a very powerful reaction from this elderly British tourist, because there was a conversation and I jumped into it, and I jumped this into the conversation rather, that because religion exists, consciousness doesn't exist. Because consciousness doesn't exist, anxiety doesn't exist, and that's why social problems and all sorts of things, domestic violence rates and everything else, it's getting worse, slowly getting worse and worse. That is why that is. It's because religion exists, and it means that consciousness doesn't exist, right? when anxiety is fucking completely and utterly about consciousness, actually. And which is not surprising, because religion's been extrapolated. This is about selling anxiety as wisdom. That's what religion is about. It's the 8th law and the 6th law, okay? And